This episode of Hydroshow is sponsored by Hydromag, the UK's independent hydroponics magazine.
Well, it's that time of the show when the two of us are handed a presenter challenge, so let's find out what's in store this week.
Thank you. For this week's presenter challenge, you must each go to a grow store and buy everything you need to grow your own produce in a 1.2 metre grow tent. You can spend as much money as you like. The winner of the challenge will be the one with the most impressive display of hydroponic technology, gizmos and gadgets.
Listen, this might be my first presenter challenge, but I know exactly where I'm going to go to get the best kit for this one.
Whatever. Let's go.
Let's do it. I'm outside Gro Supplies in Washington near Newcastle. I'm here for this week's presenter challenge, which for me is my very first one. I've got no interest in losing this one, so hopefully the lads inside can help me win. Established in 2006, Gro Supplies are based in Washington near Newcastle. Store owner Peter and manager Aidan are lifelong friends, and between them they know pretty much everything there is to know about hydroponics.
Hello there, mate. How can I help you?
I've been set a little bit of a challenge. I have to get a 1.2 metre grow tent and fill it with all the best equipment that I can get my hands on here in store. It's a bit of a competition. I have to beat this blonde girl, and I really want to win because it's the first challenge that I've ever done. Can you help me?
I certainly can. There's lots of options. If budget's not a factor, then there's lots of options. So it'd be better really if I could show you a few different things first, and then you would possibly make your mind up from there. You see.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Okay. So as you can see, there's a selection of different tents here. Now it doesn't really matter what your budget is. We always try to sell quality tents here because a tent's not something that you really want falling apart on you, really. Now, things you would look for in a decent tent is the thickness of the material, the stability of the whole thing. Also, you're looking for decent-sized air vents and ones that also have a drawstring so it can make it airtight around the ducting. And yeah, basically, there's no point scrimping on a tent. So, as you can see, this one has a bigger lighting system than the last tent. Now, this lighting system is part of a new wave of technology that's coming out now. And the special thing about this light is actually the lamp itself. It's made by Philips specifically for horticultural purposes, and it has the best spectrum. And because the ballast powers it at 400 volts, it delivers that light at a much quicker frequency than your bog standard 240 volt ballast.
So you just mentioned the frequency there. What benefit does that have for what you're growing?
If you imagine any 1 second, well, light is actually particles, photons. So if you imagine in any 1 second, there's a certain amount of photons being delivered, being fired at the plant. So if you speed the frequency of that up, it literally means that the plant is receiving more light every second than it normally would from a normal artificial lighting source.
Right, okay.
The good thing now as well is there's quite a lot of companies bringing 400 volt ballasts out. So now you're not restricted to one single reflector. Yeah, so if I can just take a bit of time to explain this reflector to you. It's quite a special thing. The material that it's made out of is called Myro, and it's actually made specifically for reflecting light. That's what the material's made for and manufactured for. It is actually 3 metals pressed together. It's silver, titanium and aluminium. And I mean, to demonstrate, actually it'd be easy if you just put the back of your hand on top of that reflector, on top of that, yeah. And as you can tell, that's pretty cool to the touch, yeah.
Pretty much no heat at all.
That reflector doesn't transduce heat. The heat escapes and disperses from the top of the reflector and out the sides of the reflector. So you get no downward heat whatsoever. So you can get the reflector much closer to the plant. And also the other really good thing about this is the angles that are designed on the reflector are designed to scatter the light so it's perfectly even. So the plants around the edges of your grow area actually do as as well as the ones in the middle. Yeah, so these things here are actually a fan built into a silencer. It reduces any noise or anything. It's got very, minimal vibration. It's very lightweight and it's powerful enough for the size of it to remove as much heat as we need to remove from your 1.2 tent. Right. For obvious reasons, there's two main reasons that you would use ventilation, and it's by far the most important thing when you're setting up a grow room is the airflow and the ventilation. Without the right environment, it doesn't matter what nutrient, what fertilizer you use, your plants are not going to grow properly. Okay, the system that we're gonna recommend that you use for your challenge is the auto pot kit. It's the XL auto pot system. The way it works, really, if you can imagine, it's almost like each pot has its own valve in it, and it's like a toilet system in a way. As the plant uses up the water, or the water evaporates, then the valve allows more water into the chamber, which then the plant can feed. It takes the watering out of it because the plant basically waters itself as it needs watering. Each pot contains its own valve, so if you want to shut off any one individual pot or garden with one plant, you can quite easily do that.
Peter then went on to explain he would be providing a bank of 12 T5 high output fluorescent lamps, timed to mimic the movements of the sun. He also explained that he would be giving me the plant life range of nutrients, and for growth medium, he would be supplying a mix of cocoa and perlite from Gro Media.
Well, that's it for my first presenter challenge. Peter from Gro Supplies has really helped me out there with what I think is a great kit. Hopefully, I can beat Gemma when it comes to the studio part. See you in a bit.
Gro Supplies is one of the leading hydro stores in the UK. Although based in the Northeast, our reputation has spread far and wide. At Gro Supplies, we pride ourselves on your results. The better you do, the better we do. Successful growers like you want a store that means business. So come to Gro Supplies and achieve your growing dreams. Gro Supplies, for those in the grow. Visit www.grosupplies.com.
I'm here in Liverpool, NPK Technology. Now, last episode, I had a budget of £500. Today, I have no limit to my budget whatsoever. How exciting. Let's go inside and see what they have in store for us.
A relatively new store, NPK Technology formed in 2012. However, company owner Thomas has been a horticultural enthusiast for over a decade.
Hi.
Hello.
I wonder if you could help me. I'm after a 1.2 metre tent kit. I've got no limit to my budget whatsoever, no expense spared, and I want as many gadgets and gizmos in there. Do you think you could help?
Certainly. You've definitely come to the right store. Let's show you some gadgets and gizmos and get started.
Fab.
Right, so here we have the home box tent. This is a little bit larger than you'd ask for, but it's a good demonstration.
Okay.
You was asking for a 1.2 size tent, which is half this size. It's well insulated, it's well covered. As you can see, it's got the PAR reading settings compared to the silver, so it shows that white has a reflectivity of 91.8% as opposed to the silver, which is 69%. So you're really getting the most out of your light with this tent.
Right, okay.
Okay.
And what's this? It looks like a Dalek.
Well, this is the BioWave Mini that it emits subharmonic waves and open stomata, which promotes photosynthesis.
Oh, right, cool.
Also, we have the ISOMAX acoustic fan, which is very powerful, but also very quiet. It has 3 power settings on it, so you can adjust this to whatever your tent requires. Also, we have the Hortiline plant support netting, which is really good and elasticated, so it's really easy to fit and install, but has a really good weight distribution on products, so it holds them firmly where they need to be.
Great.
So everything else I need to show you is behind the counter, so if you'd like to just follow me.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, well, let's show you first of all the Tech One digital dimmable ballast, which is lightweight. It has a varying power selection here, so you can go from 400 watts to 660 watts, which is a super lumens feature, so you can really get the most out of your bulbs with this ballast. It actually emits exactly what it says, Rather than other ballasts which are analog, which don't give you the right power reading, this actually gives you what it says. So this is state of the art. It's a really good piece of equipment.
And that's what I
Yes.
want, a
Okay.
good gadget.
Yes, that's first of all. Then we have a shade to spread the light, which I would recommend is the North Star F1. Basically, this shade distributes the light evenly from the center of the shade to all the way right round the outside of the shade, so you don't have any light loss, so to speak. So basically, if your plant is underneath the center of the shade, or it's at the side of the shade, it will still receive the same amount of light.
Great.
Okay.
Sounds good. Is there anything else I need?
Well, in fact, there is. At the end of all of this, that's a lot of weight you're going to have to carry inside your tent. However, even though the tent's really strong, what you can actually do is add extra strength, and we do this by Hercules bars.
Oh.
And what we do with these is basically we slip them over the original bars, and these give extra added strength to the tent and support all of the equipment that's laddered inside the tent. And if you wanted to, you could even hang upside down in the tent yourself.
Wow. That's great.
So what we're going to do is we're going to automate the tent, so it gives you as little work as possible, but gives you the best results as possible. And the way we do this is we would use the multi-flow V2 system. Now this system is completely digitalized. So basically, you would have a digital mains unit, like so, which you can mount onto the wall using these fixed screwing, and you can set this to come on and off whenever you like. So basically, the chores of feeding plants and having to return home or whatever to feed the plants, that's no longer the case. With the V2 multi-flow system, it does it all for you.
That sounds really good. Is this a deep water culture system, or is it flood and drain?
No, this system is a flood and drain system. So basically it'll flood in and then be pumped back out.
So what growth medium are we going to be using in this?
Well, I recommend for this system that you use a 60-40 mix. So basically you're getting the best of both worlds. You have a lot of aeration, but you have the stability of cocoa. So that's why I recommend a 60-40 mix.
Thomas went on to tell Gemma he would be introducing CO2 to the grow tent with some exhaled grow bags and some additional side lighting using some LEDs from Croplight. He then also explained that he will provide 2 Hortiline clip fans for air circulation. Finally, Thomas introduced Gemma to the Psycho Pro kit, which will give her setup all the nutrition it requires for up to 2 separate grows. He also supplied a bottle of plant vitality to help prevent and fight pests and diseases.
Well, thanks for that, Thomas. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for
Great.
coming to the store today.
No worries, and I'll hopefully see you soon.
Definitely.
See you
Thank
later.
you. Bye-bye.
Well, that's it. We've got everything, I hope. We've got everything I need. I think it's going to be a bit more of a complicated setup than last time. But hopefully Thomas will be there to help me set up in the studio this time. Okay, let's go.
At NPK Technology in Liverpool, we pride ourselves on providing you with the products you need at the right price. Once more, if the products you want aren't in stock, we'll order them in for you. And if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, we'll happily point you in the right direction. NPK Technology Liverpool, going out of our way to help you grow. Visit www.mpktechnology.co.uk.
Is good.
Earlier on in the episode, Gemma and I were handed a presenter challenge.
So we're now joined in the studio by Aidan from Gro Supplies and Jay from NPK Technology. Hi guys.
Hiya.
Hi.
So both Aidan and Jay have very kindly brought all of their equipment with them. Are you ready to set them up, guys?
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. Well, let's do it.
Let's go.
Each of the teams will now set up their pimped out gadget tent. Whilst that's going on, let's see what Aidan from Gro Supplies thinks of NPK's system. For the Grow tent, NPK have chosen the Homebox tent with Par Plus reflective lighting.
I think the Homebox tents are of decent quality. The power properties of them are better than the traditional silver tents. However, I think that the green cube tents are a lot more sturdy, and the viewing window definitely is a benefit. It saves opening the door to remove any excess humidity.
For lighting, NPK went with a North Star reflector from Swiss Pro, combined with a Tech 1 digital adjustable ballast, a 600 watt lamp, and for extra lighting a couple of crop lamp LED Hydrogro 30 watt lamps. Let's see what Aidan thinks of these.
The thoughts on the LEDs are, they are, in our opinion from Gro Supplies, they are good for the smaller plants and root and cuttings. However, once you get a little bit of a larger plant, then in our view they do tend to struggle. In our tent we've went with the 400 volt Lumitec ballast. It's the latest technology, so therefore we're putting more power to the bulb, so it increases the amount of light that the plant receives. We've put that in the Gro Spot reflector, which balances the light perfectly even square, so that the plant that's under each corner of the reflector does equally as well as the one that will be directly under the bulb.
For their grow system, NPK used a 4-pot multi-flow flood and drain system, complete with tank and intelligent programmable watering brain. Let's find out what Aidan had to say about that.
They are a good system. Again, I do prefer our system due to the fact that in the smaller of grow rooms, the reservoirs do tend to heat up, you know. So we like to keep it with an auto pot. Each plant's going to drink the same, but they're not a recirculating plant, not a recirculating system. So if any problems are present, you can just remove the one plant. Whereas in a recirculating system, the problem can go through all of the plants quite quickly, you know.
NPK introduced CO2 into their grow room using 2 exhale mycelial mass CO2 bags, which slowly release CO2 into the atmosphere in the tent.
The CO2 is something that maybe we should have put into our tent. The XL grow kits are an ideal little piece of kit, to be honest.
Unfortunately, Thomas from NPK wasn't able to make it to the studio, so we went back to his shop to find out what he thought of Gro Supplies' tent setup. Gro Supplies chose the green cube for their grow tent, a silver lined tent with lots of air ducts, side access panels and a viewing window.
Well, firstly, the tent I think is a really good tent. Well made, very strong, very thick poles, so it will be able to hold a lot of weight. A lot of ventilation and some viewing panels, which I think is a few very good features on the tent. However, the tent that we used, which was the Homebox PAR, offers a lot more light intensity by the photoactive radiation in the tent. Obviously, because our tent is a white line tent and the other tent is a silver lined, we offer a lot more reflectivity from our tent.
For lighting, Gro Supplies went with a 400 volt Lumitec adjustable ballast with a Philips green power lamp. This is housed in a Gro Star with 18 T5 high out fluorescent lamps, timed to mimic the natural movements of the sun. Also included was a green power 4-way contactor.
I think it's a really nice kit, to be honest with you. I think the bulb is second to none. I don't really feel the necessary need to stagger the side lighting and replicate the times of the month or however. I basically just wanted to put in a low costing additional light that's going to give some good results. So this is why I use the AgroLamp LED flowering bulbs. Basically that these can stimulate through the growth period and the flower period with little amount of energy.
So without further ado, let's look at both systems as a whole and see which we think is the best. Both companies have firm policies on grow tents, only providing the best in quality, and although the Green Cube has extra access points, a viewing panel and more air vents, the Homebox does provide better power reflective light, which gives NPK's plants more growth potential. Both companies had completely different approaches to lighting. NPK went for the 600 watt, 240 volt setup with LEDs for additional lighting, whereas Gro Supplies opted for the 600 watt, 400 volt setup with an additional 432 watts of side lighting in 2 spectrums. These were configured to mimic the movement of the sun. This really is a moment of genius from Gro Supplies, and therefore the lighting category has to go to them. Again, both stores chose 2 very different grow systems. NPK supplied the recirculative multi-flow system, whereas Gro Supplies opted for the Autopot XL. This really is a matter of preference, and each are good in their own right. However, the brief of the challenge was to supply a gadget-filled tent, and given as Gro Supplies gave us the trimeter for measuring those all-important nutrient levels, this category must go to them. Although the heart of ventilation was very similar in both NPK's and Gro Supplies systems, each with silenced inline fans, the provision of an SMS hybrid controller and an additional fan for intake gives Gro Supplies the edge in this category. Both companies went for growth mediums with a strong presence of cocoa. However, NPK preferred a mix of clay pebbles, whereas Gro Supplies went for a mix of perlite. Each of these come with their own strengths and weaknesses, meaning we can't really call a winner for this category. And the same goes for nutrients. Without extensive tests, we can't categorically say which nutrient range is the best, so we'll have to call a draw for this part 2. Gro Supplies neglected to introduce CO2 to their grow room. This hands down gives NPK a clear win in this category. And finally, let's not forget the fundamental essence of this challenge, gadgets. And with the addition of the BioWave Mini, NPK have to take this category. So it looks like it's neck and neck at the finishing line. However, we don't like ties on Hydroshow, so we have to refer back to the challenge brief to find the winner. The brief specified gadgets and gizmos, which would decide the winner in this grow test. And with that in mind, the ultimate gadget was definitely supplied by NPK. So the challenge, in this case, goes to Thomas. Unlucky Gro Supplies, but a brilliant effort nonetheless. If you want to see an extended version of this challenge, see our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/Hydroshow TV.
This episode of Hydroshow is sponsored by Hydromag, the UK's independent hydroponics magazine.